What's going on, everyone? Hope everyone's doing well. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Sony IER-M7. So this is the box it comes with. It comes with like 2 cables, a bunch of ear tips, and this nice case. You just pop it open. So yeah, I like the presentation. There's not much else. So yeah, let's start off with the build, cable, and fit. So the build quality on these is pretty decent for the price. Not mind-blowing or anything. It's just like a plastic Sony logo here. And then this left-right indicator. So yeah, it's pretty simple. There's not much to talk about. It's very light. And yeah, so now let's talk about the cable. So the cable is pretty soft. It doesn't have any odd things going on with it, and it doesn't tangle up a lot. So I do like the cable. I don't have any issues with it when I was using it. So yeah, that's the cable. Now let's talk about the fit. So I would say the fit is pretty exceptional on these. I never got a sense of there being too much ear fatigue or too much of a closed-in feeling. So yeah, not bad at all. I'd say it's above average fit for the price. Sounds about right. So yeah, that's the build, cable, fit. No issues. It's really nice. And yeah, nothing too special or crazy. So yeah, now let's start off with the bass. And then we'll talk about the mids and highs. And then we'll talk about soundstage imaging and detail retrieval. So yeah, let's start off with the bass. So before we talk about the bass, actually, I do want to point out the set doesn't have any bad BA timbre. So BA timbre is basically like a harsh noise or sibilance you'd get out of some sets, like artifacts. So, or BA timbre could actually mean the bass is like a BA bass, like it's not that good quality-wise. So this IEM, I didn't have any issues with bad BA timbre, or I felt like there was any issues with that. This is a highly coherent IEM. Like very, very coherent. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So yeah, that's the timbral aspects of the IEM. So yeah, I do like that. So let's start off with the bass. The bass always feels like it's part of the mix, but it's not boomy. And for me, the bass didn't stand out. It doesn't. So I talk a lot about mid bass and sub bass. So this IEM doesn't favor sub bass or mid bass. It kind of sounds like it's 50-50 on both. And I never quite heard an IEM that does that. So yeah, that's the bass. So if you do want a deep rumble out of your favorite hip-hop track or EDM track, I don't think this is it. This is more balanced in the bass. The quality of the bass, I would say, is well defined. So I never thought that the bass wasn't well defined or anything. It doesn't sound like a dynamic driver. So yeah, it does have a slight bit of BA bass, but I didn't find the quality of the bass to be lacking or anything like that. So yeah, the bass, I would say, is decent. It didn't blow me away. It's present and it's more a part of your mix. So yeah, that's the bass. I don't know how I feel about the bass, honestly, because it's not amazing, but it's not bad either. It's like middle of the road type of bass. So yeah, when I talk about the mid-range, I'll explain it a little more. So now let's talk about the mid-range. So the mid-range is clear, and it has this velvety texture to it that I've never heard out of another IEM. So I'm pretty sure that's a Sony thing. So basically, I think that's because of the mid-bass. So the vocals sound sort of velvety, but they don't really sound boxy or restricted, maybe a little. So yeah, I'd say the mid-range is really good for voices. Now let's talk about instrument separation. So this hits a home run in that aspect. I think the instrument separation is really, really good, and it competes with all of the pairs in this price range. So I never thought it was lacking or it didn't sound good. It's really that good. So any like woodwind instruments you listen to, or any classical tracks or live recordings, this is an amazing IEM. And it has like an audiophile type of sound. So if you don't like a balanced sound, then I'd stay away from these. But if you do like a balanced set, then this is a really good set. It's like an audiophile type of sound. So yeah, I will point out the bass does slightly bleed into the mid-range, which causes that slight bit of boxiness. I did notice the bass did slightly bleed into the mid-range, so it's not perfectly separated. So I do wish the bass was slightly separated better from the mid-range, because at times the mids could sound a little claustrophobic in a sense where it's not separated perfectly from the bass. So yeah, that's what I thought. Other than that, I didn't really have any issues with the mids. So yeah, really, really good. And I'm going to note one thing. So if you play poorly recorded tracks, this IEM will sound like it's broken. Like actually it sounds like it's broken. And other IEMs, I say it'll sound bad or whatnot, but this IEM literally sounds like it's broken if you play poorly recorded music. So that is one thing to note. I do have a few tracks that aren't recorded perfectly, and I do test that to see how bad it sounds. And this one made it sound like the song was broken and the earphone was broken. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So yeah, now let's talk about the treble. So the treble is there. It's articulated just the right amount. It's airy. I do wish there was a little more air, but it's not bad. So basically, I would say from the bass, mids to the treble, this is a really balanced IEM. Like, I'm saying nothing stood out to me. Like, it was favoring one frequency over another. It just sounded really balanced. So if you're not into that type of sound where it sounds pretty balanced, then I'd stay away from these. So yeah, that's that. Now let's talk about the soundstage and imaging. So the soundstage is actually really, really good on these. It's above average. And once you get to the $500 price point around there, it starts to get as good as some speakers you would hear. So I'd say the soundstage is really wide. So the U12T has like the widest soundstage I've ever heard. But the IER-M9 is like this far. So it's definitely out of your head. It never gets too cluttered. All the instruments are separated well. It paints a picture. So yeah, pretty good soundstage. I definitely think it's up there with the other IEMs in this price range. It doesn't feel lacking in that regard. So that's the soundstage. Now let's talk about the imaging. So this hits a home run with the imaging. The imaging is excellent on these. So you hear the layers of the music perfectly. So if the sound is coming from here, you hear that. If the sound's coming from here, you hear that. And then the layer of the instruments is immaculate on these. One of the best imagings I've ever heard in an IEM, probably top 2 or top 3. It definitely paints a picture. So you could actually envision what's happening. And for other IEMs, I don't really talk a lot about the soundstage and imaging because they're all okay or average or slightly above average. But this is well above average. Like the imaging it has. And I have the U12T, so that does a good job with the imaging too. But the imaging really, really stood out to me on these. Like the way it's layered and it paints a picture. So I think because of like the really coherent sound, it's able to do that. And because it's balanced. So overall, I do think this is a really, really good IEM. If you can get it for like $350 or around $400 around there, I think you would like it. So basically, if you don't like a balanced sound, stay away from these. Because this is really balanced. The bass, mids, and treble. I never found any frequency to be favored. So yeah. So based on what I said, if you do like the sense of soundstage and imaging, I'd say this is a home run IEM. But the bass, mids, and treble won't shock you like something exceptional. So yeah, those are my views. And yeah, I'm actually surprised more people don't talk about this IEM because it definitely competes with the other IEMs in this price range. So yeah, it's really, really good. I don't really have that many complaints. So the complaints I do have is I wish that the bass didn't bleed into the mid-range slightly, which causes the vocals to have like a velvety, breath-like texture, if you know what I mean. And then I do wish maybe the bass had a little more definition. But yeah, other than that, there's like 2 or 3 problems I have with this IEM. But other than that, it does a really, really good job. It's neutral. I never found that the body of the vocals was thin or thick. It's actually well placed, maybe slightly forward, but it's full bodied. So yeah, that's what I thought about the Sony IER-M7. And I do want to try out the Sony IER-M9. But I was watching a few reviews and they said they preferred the M7 over the M9. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. And I did forget to mention the detail. So I would say if I had to rate the detail levels on this, I'd give it a solid B plus or maybe even an A minus. So yeah, I would say this is up there with the Moondrop Variations. So at that point, it just depends on what type of sound you want. But yeah, these aren't bad at all. I actually do like them. And I'll see if I can get a Sony IER-M9 to review. But yeah, not bad at all. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, have a good one.